What a great conversation with Sophia. She has a wealth of information around teens and parents and anxiety, has just written a book about this very topic and how do we help our kids, help our teens. So if you are a parent, grandparent, aunt, uncle, anyone who's got a teen in your life who is experiencing anxiety, or, if you're a teen and you're experiencing it, this is a great podcast to listen to. And it's also, you can pick up the book and get some really helpful tips about how to show up for the people in your life so that we can all be happier and more regulated and joyful.
Yeah. I think just the term anxiety can be sort of daunting for some people, as it was for me. But I think she makes it feel like, you know what, it's just a thing. We're going to get through it. We have some tools, lots of communication skills with parents and teens. I know that sounds ridiculous, but you really can communicate with your teens. So anyway, you're going to want to listen, and she's awesome.
The world is a lot right now. Are you feeling it? We all need new tools to help us walk through the chaos with grace, ease, and compassion for each other and for ourselves. In this podcast, you'll hear from parents, educators, and other experts who can bring perspective to the monumental job of parenting. It's time to level up and be warriors for our kids and our communities. This is the Warrior Parent Podcast. I'm Marci Mitchell.
And I'm Debbie DeMano. As parents, we understand that it really does take a village to raise our kids. We hope that this podcast serves to create and support that community for you. Join us as we discuss and practice our core tools, which are proven mind-body techniques that can be used by anyone to improve your life on a daily basis.
Welcome back to the Warrior Parent Podcast. We're grateful that you're joining us. Today, we're going to be speaking with Sophia Vale Galano, and she was born in Los Angeles, raised in London, and holds a master's degree in social work from New York University. So she's had some experience in some great cities and some great places around the world. Sophia earned her LCSW in 2018. She has a thriving therapy practice catering to adults and teenagers throughout California. Additionally, she has extensive experience working as a therapist in residential, inpatient, outpatient, medical, and educational settings for both adults and adolescents. In conjunction with running a private practice, she supervises associate therapists. And in addition to her work as a therapist, she's a certified yoga instructor, a master Reiki practitioner. I just did my Reiki 2 months ago. So we can chat about that a little. She volunteers for several nonprofit organizations. And after achieving her LCSW, she completed a sex therapy certification from California Institute of Integral Studies, an animal-assisted therapy certification from the Animal Behavioral Institute, and a forensic social work certification from the National Organization of Forensic Social Work. So very well-rounded, lots of interesting things to talk about. Thank you so much, Sophia, for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited.
Yes. Us
wow. Too. Like, where do we begin, right?
The sex, the animal,
sexuality. Yeah. And meanwhile, my dog's over here whining. So if you could help me out with that. To get us through the podcast. Yeah.
Yes.
Sometimes
absolutely.
the pets need the therapy.
100%.
Yeah, not us. No. So I'm so excited to have this conversation with a local Californian. So I don't know how much you know about Marci and I, but Marci and I started this nonprofit about 2017. We've been doing the podcast for a couple of years. We do all kinds of nonprofit work as well, but we started in the teen world when my daughter was a teen and her friends were having issues, and it all kind of started there. We're noticing the levels of anxiety going on with these kids. And so I'd like to kind of start there. I know you have a big focus in that area. So give us your perspective. What is going on with the younger generation right now?
Yes, I so appreciate you asking that question. So I have a book that's coming out in a couple of weeks on October 7th, and it's all about this subject. So my book
Oh,
is called Calming Teenage Anxiety. And that's
Yeah.
really, yeah, that's like my bread and butter is working with this population. So working
oh,
with both
wow.
the teenagers and the parents to really help them kind of navigate this, this topic that is really confusing and complicated. And there's so many different layers to it. So,
Yeah.
really where I start when, kind of getting into the nitty gritty with anxiety is really the first question I receive a lot from parents is how do I know when something is concerning and how do I know when something is kind of just normal teenage
Yes.
behavior? Is
Yes.
it teenage angst? Is it just a phase? Is it
Right.
hormones? Did I go through this? Like, when is it concerning versus when is it just something that, we can kind of brush aside as sort of standard teenage behavior? So that's usually
Mm-hmm.
where I start. And I detail this a lot in my book about guiding parents on how to notice, when it's worth taking a closer look. So usually what I recommend is to start of noting how often anxiety is occurring and to what extent. So I usually give people this example, like of keeping it pretty simple, of like if someone has a teenager, let's say, who has mild anxiety and nervousness before a test. Sure. Okay. Understandable. That's going to happen.
Right.
If
Right.
there is a teenager that refuses to go to school over and over again before a test, that throws up before every math test they take, having panic attacks, it's causing issues with their socialization, their grades are slipping, it's definitely worth taking a closer look. So sometimes even for parents, just noting where to begin, like when is it problematic, can
Yeah.
be very empowering for them to start there.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes the anxiety is overlooked or brushed aside by very well-meaning
Yeah.
Yes.
parents here. So
Right.
that's where I usually begin when it comes to teenage
Yeah.
anxiety.
So I feel
Mm.
like, there's this thing going on right now. And Marcy and I are always advocating for the young kids, right?
Mhm.
But there's a lot of trash talking, like, oh, they all have anxiety, they all
Mhm.
have this, they all have that. And so I want you to talk about that, just anxiety in general. And is it just something that it's just the word that everyone's using right now, or is this real? I want
Mhm.
to talk
Mhm.
to those who are poo-pooing this whole idea that our kids are all
Yeah.
running around anxious.
I'm a firm believer that it is very, very real. Yes, of course, I definitely do think that there are, people who throw out that word very casually when, it's not a casual issue, it's very serious, and again, I think anxiety, like I mentioned earlier, is often overlooked, or often
Right.
brushed aside because it's really, really easy to disregard. But it
Right.
is serious. And I do see this, more and more with each year that comes up in my
Yeah.
practice. There's just more teens feeling anxious and also more parents not knowing what to do. Again, not
Right.
only the confusion of is this real anxiety, but
Right.
also what do we do to help if it is real
Right.
anxiety, if this truly is concerning, what do we say, what do we not say, what do we do, what do we not do? But really
Right.
big part of my work as a therapist and in my book is encouraging parents to really look at this and see that it is concerning. And if
Yeah.
parents have brushed it aside, to be very compassionate and non-judgmental with themselves because it is
Right.
very easy to overlook. So oftentimes the most well-meaning people will brush it aside. It's
Yes.
just what you were saying, Debbie, that it's just that word is thrown around so often that, sometimes it's
Right.
hard to take it seriously. But, as a clinician, I fully believe that it is very serious.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. And as a parent of two kids who are, adults now, but obviously always my kids, with anxiety, one of the things that I think, because I'm the last Gen Xer, so I was born in 65, so I'm right at
Mhm.
the end there.
Mhm.
So I'll be turning 60 this year. But, when I was growing up, we didn't talk about anxiety.
Mhm.
We were always being pushed. We were always like, it
Mhm.
was more about like pull yourself up. And of course,
Mhm.
we're known for that generation where of feral teens. Our parents were working, moms and dads. We were on our own.
Yes.
We were out there doing whatever. And as I watch my own kids, as I learn more about this, I made it through that. I pushed down. I didn't. It wasn't really allowed to experience it. For
Right.
most of us, we managed because we had to. And So I want to speak to people who are
Mhm.
thinking, I was fine and I didn't, and I pulled myself up, and, because I hear that, but that doesn't mean that that was good. That doesn't mean that that was the best practice. And we did the best we could with what we had. But now,
Definitely.
yeah, now we have more knowledge around this. And we're
Mhm.
also coming into a new era where maybe we're more open to people living their life, not just for good grades and for a good job and to
Yes.
be something society has said is a good person or a
Mhm,
good member,
mhm.
productive member of society, but to live into our fullness and to be who we are. And so to have awareness around this, to start to open up to it without judgment, to be able to like hold
Mhm.
yourself back when you're like, well, these kids, and instead be like, what's going on here, and have some openness to learn, and then talk to an expert like you or your kids. Talk to your kids with general and genuine curiosity, like what is going on right now.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I am so grateful that you said that. And again, this is a big section of my book is that, how to
Hmm.
talk to your kids. So
Yeah.
oftentimes parents will come to me and they'll be at the point where they realize, okay, the anxiety is a problem. My kid is suffering, they're struggling, there's no denying it, or there's no confusion, or I'm fully aware. But now
Yeah.
what do we do? And oftentimes
Yes.
as parents, I feel like it's our kind of instinctual nature to want to fix things. We want to just get rid of the problem right away. But what can happen is that can drive the teens further away. So even if the intention is really positive,
Yes.
the teenager will not want to talk to us anymore. It will
Right.
just result in frustration for both the parent and the teenager. So I love that you use this word kind of like curious, inquisitive, because that's very
Mhm.
much what I advise and what I recommend is
Right.
taking this approach as a parent of seeking to want to learn and want to understand
Yes.
versus provide solutions
Yeah.
or fix it.
Yes.
And oftentimes
Yeah.
that kind of like listening, curious, inquisitive approach actually is the solution. That is how we ultimately fix
Yeah.
it. But it's kind of, between the lines. We'll put it that way.
Well, and
Yes.
then there's the stigma around it, right?
Hmm.
So I have to tell you a funny story. You guys, Marcia, I don't think you've heard this before either. So I was like working, I was a hard charger, working crazy hours. I ended up getting
Hmm.
myself super, super sick. And so I was having these what were panic attacks, but I really didn't know what they were, right? And I
Hmm.
also had a bunch of autoimmune that was starting to show up in my body. Like I
Hmm.
really had just pushed myself. I didn't know about childhood trauma. All these things were really starting to show up in my
Right.
40s. And I was dating. I was divorced. I was dating a physician at the time, and I described to him what I was having, and he's like, "Well, geez, you have anxiety," and I'm like, "Oh my god."
I do. Yeah.
Like, oh my God, like, are you gonna put me in
Yes.
an asylum or something? Like, I really thought, like,
Mm.
oh my goodness. And
Mhm.
he just said, look, like, just like their medications, right? And I'm like, oh my God, like now I'm gonna be a drug addict. And I was like blowing the whole thing
Yeah.
up in my head.
Which
And
we do.
yeah, we
Sure.
do. So anyway, he taught me this little trick about taking a little Ativan, just a tiny piece, and just putting it under my tongue when I was having that feeling like someone was strangling me, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so I did that for a little while until I realized like all I had to do was have it in my purse.
Yes.
And then and then it went away.
That's so
Oh my God, we
common.
can start
Yeah.
Mhm.
that once you're on that track for anxiety, man, it's
Yes.
hard to like break that thing in your brain that keeps turning it
Yes.
Mm.
on, right? But
Yes.
yeah, I thought I was
Yes.
gone to the loony bin.
Oh, that is such a real experience, though. I hear
Yes.
that a
Right?
lot from my clients, in particular, excuse me, my adult clients, where it's like
Yeah.
they didn't even realize they had anxiety. There wasn't a
Right.
name for it. I think some of it is like of the
Right.
time, cultural, like you were saying, Marcy, like,
Right.
just
Cool.
different
Just suck it
generation.
up.
Yeah. Yes. And
Yeah.
sometimes, when we, first of all, even just have a label to put on it, it can feel like an enormous relief. I was like, okay,
That
I
is so
understand what
true.
this is. And now
Hmm.
it can be treated, so Debbie, that story of even just having it in your pocket. I mean, I hear that all the time from
Yeah.
people. It's just almost like knowing that it's there.
Yes.
It's like a bit of like a safety tool of sorts. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's so real that oftentimes, even teenagers today don't even realize. that they have anxiety either. So,
Yeah.
the teens are often just as confused as the parents are, so it's
Right.
like the parents and the teens are in it together, and oftentimes they don't even realize that they're on the journey together of kind of
Yeah.
not knowing what it is
Yeah.
or how to treat it. But
Yeah.
but yeah, and again, anxiety is, I mean, we could say this about a lot of mental health diagnosis. It's like, it's not something that, we go to the doctor and we see like, oh, it's a broken bone or it's a
Right.
rash and this is what you take
Yeah.
to fix it. It's oftentimes more subtle and it's easy to overlook,
Right.
so it's
Right.
completely understandable if, parents have overlooked it.
Yeah.
And I think also it's not always about curing it like you would a broke
Yes.
bone or something. It's about how do I work with this? How do I live with this? So,
Yes.
so our anxiety is there, and best case, it's there to warn us about something dangerous. Like if you're
Hmm.
standing next to a cliff with no railing, good to be a little anxious because you
Yes.
could, or if you're about to do something really stupid, like that's where anxiety
Yes.
can serve us, right? But
Yes.
if we're doing worst case scenario forecasting, well, this could happen and all this, then
Hmm.
then it's not serving us, then it's shutting us down, it's
Right.
driving. And how do we find that balance, and how do we find the ways to, whatever, thank our anxiety and say, it's okay, I got this, you can sit down, my
Yep.
friend.
Hmm.
Or say, oh, you know what, that was a message I did need to hear. So
Yep.
it's
Yep.
all very nuanced.
100%. It's so about finding that balance because
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
want to step outside of our comfort zone, and that's what I tell
Yeah.
parents too. And it goes back to what you were mentioning a few minutes ago, Marcy, about how the parenting of kind of like that sort of like you'll be fine, kind of tough it out type
Yeah.
mentality is like we
Mhm.
also don't want parents to enable their kids either. Like we want to find the
Mhm.
balance of like
Yeah.
not enabling, not constantly rescuing, because some kind of mild anxiety at times can push us outside of our comfort zone. That's where the
Yeah.
growth happens. But
Exactly.
then where's that point where we're overlooking it or,
Yes.
that it really is problematic. So, it's almost like this dance that parents have to navigate of like, how do I not enable, how do I not rescue, but how do I also take this seriously? So it's really complicated, and
Yeah.
again, it's understandable for parents to
Yeah.
feel confused, and that was really my intention of the book, is providing like a little bit of like an instruction manual of
Yeah.
sorts,
So
of
good.
like what do we say,
Yeah.
how do we
Yes.
identify like where is a rescuing enabling situation versus an overlooking situation. So because I feel like there are a lot of conversations out there about anxiety is really bad for teenagers. Okay, we know that social media, we know technology, but like what do we do with
Right.
that information?
Hmm.
How do we
Yeah.
help?
So
Yeah.
what do you do? I want to know like all the things. What are you telling the parents to do with the
Yeah.
kids, and what are you telling the kids to do about their anxiety? Like,
Yeah, yeah. So really, multiple step
yeah,
process. I mean,
of
the
course.
bulk of it is really to learn how to converse with the teen. So how to have a conversation, whether it's preventative care conversation, whether it's when the teen is in their full-blown anxiety, but how to actually communicate about
Hmm.
it. What are the right words to use, the right language, where do you have a conversation? So a lot of my work is even just guiding parents with that, of kind of coaching them, avoiding yes or no questions, using open-ended questions, having
Yes.
conversations in an organic setting for a teen versus like sitting at a table and pulling up statistics about anxiety. Like have a conversation while you're driving in the car, walking a pet,
Right.
or something that might feel very unusual for an adult, but for a teen can really help them open
Yeah.
up. Another a big part of my work, and it's kind of like the meat of my book, is really of having parents reflect on themselves, of like what kind of
Mm.
messages are they conveying, what are their goal
Yeah.
expectations, like very non-judgmentally and very mindfully, not punitively, because I feel like we're all a bit hard on ourselves, but of just noting like where
Yes.
as parents we can also grow to help our teens
Yes.
feel less anxious. And that also requires no effort on behalf of the teen. So oftentimes, if any of your listeners, let's say, have a teenager that's not open to having a conversation or communicating, these parents are often like, well, what do I do? My teen won't even talk to me. How am I gonna help them
Right.
if they won't
Right.
open up at all. And having parents really look into themselves again, their conveyed messages, their goal expectations, what are they
Yeah.
modeling? Are they leading by example? Requires no
Mm-hmm.
part from
We
the team.
always
Modeling's a
say,
big one.
we
Yes.
Yeah. Are you
always
walking
say,
the
yeah.
walk?
Yes.
It's an
Yes.
inside job, right, Marci?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
very true. And again, like you said, we're so hard on ourselves. So that's the first
Yes.
thing is like give yourself a break. Like you're doing
Yes.
the best you can from what you had.
Yes.
But
Mm-hmm.
now, as we heard from Oprah and from oh, I can't think of the name of, I think the person who said it was, when we know better, we do better.
Yes.
So
Yes. Yes.
yeah, so that's
Mm-hmm.
it. Like you're doing the best you can. Like I like to think of like, why do you think you're here on the planet? Do you think you're
Mm-hmm.
here to like go to school, get a job, have a kid, send the kid to college and then raise a garden and die? Or are you here for like some purpose? Like, are you here to grow, to be more when you
Yeah.
leave, to give more, like
Mm-hmm.
to learn, to always learn.
Mm-hmm.
And like when I was growing up, parents weren't really meant to learn. Parents knew, and the kids were going to learn, and the parents were going to
Yep.
tell the kids what to do. And if a
Yep.
parent showed any kind of weakness, which at the
Mm-hmm.
time would be vulnerability, um,
Mm-hmm.
admitting they were wrong, saying, wait, I don't understand, say more. Like if parent didn't come from this, I know everything, I'm going to tell you what to do, I'm the authority, then that wasn't accepted. And
Right.
that I had to unlearn that, because when I became
Right.
a parent, I had to realize, oh, this is not helpful. And when I do screw up, if I'm not willing to say to my kids, I'm sorry, screwed up, I could have done that better, and tell me more about how I can help, and then catching myself and
Yes.
saying, oh, you're right. Like, why would they listen to me? Because they're like, oh, mom doesn't want to hear anything. She thinks she knows
Yeah.
everything. And
Mm-hmm.
and I think that our parents didn't think they knew everything. They thought they were supposed to know everything, so they
Yep.
pretended. Yeah, and so that
Mm-hmm.
never works. So let's
Yeah.
it's okay to say I'm wrong, I was
Yes.
wrong, or I don't
Yeah.
understand what's going on. Help me to understand. But then
Yes.
you
Yes.
then you got to really listen. You got to not jump
Yes.
into, like you
Yeah.
say, fixing or judging, but
Yes.
be like, okay, say more about that because I don't understand, and then
Yeah.
and then really hear them.
Yep.
And that changes
Yes.
everything. And now suddenly
Yes.
they might be willing to talk to you, right? Because now
Mm-hmm.
you're really listening and
Yeah.
you're open to what they're saying. You're
Yep.
not just shutting them down.
100%. You're being a human
Yeah.
being, and
Yes.
talk about good modeling. I mean, that's teaching them
Yes.
that you're, being a
Right.
real person. You don't have to have all the answers. And,
Yeah.
that's a amazing way to lead by
Yeah.
example, and
Yeah.
how are we supposed to know everything as
Yeah.
parents,
Exactly.
and I love
Yes.
I love questions like how can I support you? How can I be there for
Yes.
you? Or what can I do versus like you should do this or this
Exactly.
is the way. And
Hey, we just wanted to take a quick moment to tell you about something very exciting that Debbie and I and our team have been working on for literally years. And that is our Core Tools app, which is now available at the Google Play Store and at the Apple Store. And you can sign up for it now and you will get access to all the tools we've been talking about on the podcast.
And if you're an early adopter of Core Tools, you can get a VIP price for $49 for a lifetime. That's
Lifetime.
right. That's
Buy
right.
it once and we'll keep
Lifetime.
updating it too.
Yes, yes. So we're super excited about this. Go to Apple Store, go to Google Play, and purchase it now.
Core Tools, COUR, capital TOOLS.
Go get it.
And a lot of my work with the teens behind the scenes is also helping them understand that, obviously I can't speak for every parent, but most parents are coming from a very positive place when they do try to fix and
Yes.
provide solutions. So,
Yeah.
oftentimes a parent will be like a team will be like, my parent just doesn't understand. They just tell me to go like meditate or go for a walk and my anxiety will go away. and often my work is just explaining to them like, you're valid feeling that way. The frustration is real and it's completely understandable. And your parent is coming from a good place telling you to do that because it does go against,
Yeah.
our instincts as parents to just
Right.
wait for the slow and gradual change. We don't want our child to suffer. We want it to go away immediately. So there's
Yes.
a lot of work on both sides with the team and the parents.
That's an important thing that you
Mhm.
just said, that wanting it to go away immediately. This is part of what I think is really leveling up, if you will, as a human being, is when you start to be able to sit with the discomfort, pause, not expect an immediate fix. And I am saying all this because it is so me. Like I am telling the story, I'm spilling all the tea on me. So to be able to be like, oh, take a breath. Your kid just said something so negative about themselves, and I want to jump in and say, that's not true. You can do it. And
Right.
I still do that. I still do that.
Yeah, of
And
course.
how can I sit with that? Like, wow, that's what they really believe. And I can't
Yeah.
fix it for them by just telling them it's not true, even though I
Right.
keep trying.
Yeah, and it's
And
heartbreaking. It's
it is
hard to see that. I
heartbreaking.
mean, that's the thing too. It's easy to, kind of logically understand this, but in the moment, it's
Mhm.
hard to see your child
Yeah.
suffer. And
Yeah,
that's, again, a big part of my work is just encouraging parents to again go easier on themselves. That like it's
yeah,
okay if, they don't have it together all the time. It's the same
right.
thing with their teens. Their teens aren't gonna have it
You're not supposed to
together.
like to hear that bad stuff, but you are
Yes.
supposed to be able to sit with a
Yeah.
little. And then when you do that and you don't immediately start doing what I tend to do, that's not true. You're this, blah,
Mhm.
blah, blah. But you can, that other thing that you just said a few minutes ago, how can I support you? Like
Yeah.
that, first of all, I hear you. Another one I've heard lately is, I'm so glad you shared that with me. Like, so
Yes,
you start with
yes.
that, like, thank you
Mhm.
so much for being vulnerable
Yes.
and sharing that with me. And
Yes.
then hearing this hard stuff, and instead of jumping in with a fix, but being like, well, what do you need from me?
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's when that, like, that's not just with your kids, that's with your partner. That's like, that's with the world.
Yes.
Don't like, yeah,
Absolutely.
what do you need from me? Because some people are going to be like, whoa, nobody ever asked me that. And some are going to
Yeah.
be like, God, I just need you to listen for a minute, or could you
Yes.
just hold my hand, or can I have a hug, or
Totally.
could you make me a coffee? Like whatever it is.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And the teenage age is so tricky because we think of most times like when our kids are younger, like there is an element of that kind of fixing and providing
Right.
solutions that we have to
Yes.
do. And then when we're adults, I mean, most adults don't like being fixed or provided this, like you should be doing that, you should be doing that.
Exactly.
And then the teens are kind of in the middle where it's like, I
Right.
think as parents, we're starting to see them maybe as a little bit more like an adult, but they're
Yes.
still like a kid, So it's
Right.
going to feel really
Yeah.
uncomfortable. It's almost like parenting a teen is like going through adolescence for ourselves all over again. It's like
Yeah.
that awkward kind of middle
Yes.
Yeah.
area.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
Let's now that we have the communication figured out,
Done.
Talk to your teenager. Yes, we've got that down. Check that off the
Yes. And
list. Yeah.
listen. And listen.
yeah.
Right.
And so what about the actual tools? I know you do this work with like Reiki and some
Mhm.
Yeah.
alternative types of
Hmm.
things. I know you do
Hmm.
like animal therapy perhaps too.
Yes.
Talk about some of the tools that you use to help the team.
Yes, yes. So overall, I'll say I'm definitely not a one size fits all
Right.
practitioner. So it really
Right.
depends on the teen. And, my kind of like primary modality is psychotherapy. So, when I have a teenager or a parent reaches out to me that, the teenager is struggling, that's usually going to be my first recommendation. Have the teen come in, let's chat, let's do talk therapy. But I will preface by saying traditional talk therapy is not for everyone and not for all teenagers. So oftentimes what will happen is we'll have a parent that calls me and said, they say, my teenager has been to 5 different therapists and it doesn't work and they hate
Right.
therapy. I don't know what to do. I've completely given up. And that's where I come in with these other modalities. I
Yeah.
encourage the parent not to get discouraged, natural to be discouraged, but not to fully shut down, fully be
Yeah.
discouraged, which is to explore these other ideas. So first of all, I am a massive advocate of coaching, like group counseling, spiritual
Yes.
mentorship, anything that's, kind of in the self-improvement category doesn't have to be traditional psychotherapy.
Mhm.
So with some teens that I work with, we will do more, kind of Reiki. We'll do more kind of art therapy. I
Yes.
was an art major in college, so we'll do art together while we're talking. There are certain teenagers who
Mhm.
I don't do this too much in my practice, but I know some therapists really all of their practices outside, or they do things where they go for walks with their
Nice.
teens. I've done
Yeah.
it from
Right.
time to time, where the teenager is in a completely different setting and they really open up.
Yeah.
Um,
Take their
and
shoes off, stick their feet
yes,
in the grass,
yep,
and calm down a little so that
yes.
they can
Yeah.
process. Yeah.
Yes. So,
Regulate.
overall, I'd say it really depends on the teen. Again, just to be open and receptive.
Yes.
And then, and this another thing I kind of talk about towards the end of my book is even just integrating other modalities in. So let's say a
Mhm.
teenager is really open or
Mhm.
receptive to therapy, does therapy, but then it's never going to hurt to do more exercise, yoga, meditation, all these other
Right.
modalities,
Yeah.
obviously depending on the teenager, but something that I always remind parents is to never force any of this, like to never say like, oh, you need to meditate every day because that really helped me. Or
Yeah.
like, you need to
Yes.
go to yoga once a week. If the teenager is like, I don't want to go to yoga, like, I don't want to meditate, maybe there's something else that resonates
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Also, me saying all of this, this kind of excludes a population where there's something very severe going on if there's an emergency
Yes.
or
Right.
That
like,
was my next
yes,
question.
yes,
Yes.
because I'm
Yeah.
saying this and, obviously if there's like suicidality, severe substance use, a very severe eating disorder, self-harm, that falls into a different category where,
Yes.
Mhm.
that kind of no force rule that I have kind of goes out the
Right.
window.
Right.
So just to throw that out there too, I feel like that's an important
Right.
thing
Because
to
sometimes you
say.
have to have that conversation and be like, listen, we have to do something for
Yes.
your own good. And
Yes,
right.
yes, absolutely, absolutely. And again, like I encourage people, parents not to force their teen to get help if it's a non-emergency
Hmm.
situation, but
Yeah.
then it's a
Yeah.
different conversation
Yeah.
also where then it's important to set boundaries and not enable, so again,
Yeah.
it goes back
Right.
to that kind of
Yeah.
dance. And this is where it would be really helpful for that parent
Yeah.
to seek their own support, whether it's
Yeah.
with their own clinician, their own family therapist, to
Yes.
really learn how to navigate those
Yes.
waters.
Right. Because it's so true that not only if you're not regulated as the parent, you cannot effectively and in your best way deal with it because you're
Yep,
dysregulated. So,
absolutely.
what
Yep.
all of us might have ideas of what that looks like. It might be your dad yelling and the veins in his
Mhm.
head popping, and you
Mhm.
can see that later. You're like, that was total dysregulation. But so if you're not already gotten your place to a place where you're centered and you're able to respond versus
Yes.
react.
Yes.
So you have
Yes.
to model that. You have to bring that
Yes.
before. It's like putting your own mask on because you can't help them
Absolutely.
otherwise.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 And I remind parents all the time, again, it's all written in the book, but like even with having conversation, that if, a parent knows that they're, pressed for time, that they've had a long day, that they're really
Yeah.
stressed, like that's
Yes.
not the time to sit down
Right.
and
Right.
have that curious,
Absolutely.
Right.
inquisitive conversation. Again, obviously emergency situations don't
Yeah.
apply to this, but to
Yes.
kind of open up that door and, really get into the
Yeah.
nitty gritty, that's not the time. And that's okay.
It's
And then,
good. And I think the other piece of that is normalizing expressing that, like saying, you know what, I had a hard day. Not just I had a hard day. I don't want to talk about this, but I had a hard day. And right now, like I have so little, I just need to relax. I have so little bandwidth
Mhm.
for showing up. And I don't want to show up in a way that's not helpful. I want to be able to hear you. You deserve to have my full attention. But right now,
Definitely.
my battery's low, or however you say it so that your child understands this is important to me. That's why I'm
Yes.
not just gonna all right, let's have this conversation, get it over with. No, this is important.
Yes.
Let's schedule it. Let's find a time when we are both at our best and then we can come forward. So just to normalize talking about
Yeah.
that is
Yeah. And being real. Like that's
yeah,
so real and
it's
and
real.
refreshing.
And
yeah.
respectful. It's respectful
Yes.
for them and for you. You're like, you deserve better than what I can give you right now. So let me
Mhm.
take a nap or let me eat
Yeah.
dinner. Like I'm starving right now. All I can think about is food. Like
Yeah.
when we get that idea that we just push through no matter what, then that's when we don't do things well. And that's
Right.
kind of the society is like, you just keep going and you can do it and
Yep.
push, push. But if you're not at your best, and it's okay to not be
Totally.
at your best, that
Totally.
happens. That's real.
Totally. And the team
Yeah.
picks up on that energy too,
Yeah, and now you've
They,
modeled that for
yeah.
them too, so that they
Yeah.
can be like, "Oh, it's okay for me to say I need to take a nap or I need to help myself before I can do
Yes.
what somebody else needs from me or whatever."
Yes, yes. And again, these are the tools, because Debbie, you were asking me about the tools that oftentimes when parents have a teen that is, like I said, really closed off, doesn't want to talk about it, doesn't want to get help, these are the tools parents can use that require no part of the teen, like practicing their own
Well,
self-care, leading by
Yes.
yeah.
example.
Well,
Yes, yes,
and then
yes.
being proactive, right? So Marcy and I, like, we're not at the level that you're at to be able to diagnose and do all the
Mm,
things. But
yeah,
we feel like what we were trying to do with the nonprofit is to be in a place of showing teens how to take care of yourself so you do not get to that place of
right.
anxiety,
Yes.
to build protocols, if you will, into your life.
Yeah.
How can you make sure you're not going to have that day when it's 8 o'clock at night and you've eaten for the first time, or you haven't had a drink of water, or you haven't taken a breath, right?
Yep.
So talk about that a little bit. How do you tell or instruct parents how to better enable their kids to have different lifestyles than probably
Yes.
what they're having?
Yes, definitely. Well, first of all, again, just to go back to what we were talking about, is for the parent to lead by example. So
Yeah.
oftentimes I'll have
Yes.
parents that will say that like that's a great example of even I haven't eaten since 8 o'clock. And teens will tell me that in their practice. They're like, I didn't have time to eat until dinner. And they're like, oh, but my mom doesn't eat all day, so like,
Right.
yeah, just kind of like quick side
Right.
note. So I'm like, that's,
Yeah.
a great opportunity for leading by example.
Right.
A big part of my work as a therapist, and this is what I encourage parents to do, is also normalize that it's okay to take breaks. So I talk about this just as an
Yeah.
example in my book, is just even how like time off for teenagers today looks very different than how it did even for my generation, as a
Mm-hmm.
millennial, that it's like the summer vacation is just constantly filled with like internships, jobs, more classes, and encouraging parents to teach their kids and tell their kids that it's okay to take time off, and that time off is almost like an investment for their mental health. So like it actually can help them regroup and recharge, and then that brings back that kind of communication tools of like, how did that feel for you? How did you feel after you didn't eat until
Right.
8 o'clock at night? And when their teen has breakfast, of like, did you like, how did you feel in terms of your mood today? Were there
Mm.
Yeah.
any shifts? What was that like? So again, kind of more reflective, curious,
Yes. Mindful.
inquisitive. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
And you can throw that word around, but that is really what it comes down to, because sometimes what we're raised in our society is just, and well, I mean, it's like capitalism. This idea is that you have to make money, and that's the goal. And so if you're always just focused on the job and school and you better do this, or you're not going to,
Mhm.
when I hear that from teachers, or if you don't do this, you'll
Mhm.
end up working at a whatever.
Mhm.
Like, I hate that. Like, let's not go there. Let's start with mindfulness in our youth. Like, what lights us up? What do we love?
Right. Right.
What works for us? Like you say,
Mhm.
like, if I don't eat, I don't feel well. Like, how do we
Right.
start to get curious about ourselves so that we're building this
Right.
foundation of joy and
Yes.
rest and healthy habits, things that
Yes.
support us, exercise, time outside, balance.
Yes.
Like, it's
Balance.
not, yeah, we're not talking about grades all the
Yeah.
time to a
Mhm.
kindergartner, or what school are you. Like, we're talking about,
Mhm.
like, did you get out? Let's go outside and catch a butterfly.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
have a summer vacation.
Yes.
Let's
Live
just play.
life.
Like, what's the mud puddle? Just go play. Or
Yes.
so, yeah,
Yes.
building on all of that, so that instead of what society's kind of putting out there with, the glamour or the cars or the houses or all these
Mhm.
things, like the internal, what lights you
Right.
up, and how to
Right.
build
Right.
yourself up to be your best self,
Right.
whatever it
Right.
looks like. Yeah.
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 Yeah. And and again, like, I think it's tough, to find again this balance, because I
Yeah.
know a lot of parents who are actually amazing at this. Like they really are very
Yeah.
supportive of,
Yes.
making sure that their child feels okay, that they're practicing self-care, they're getting enough rest.
Yeah.
What can be challenging for them is that they do too much of that, where there's more of
Yeah.
that kind of like enabling rescuing. So again, some examples are in my book, but of like,
Helicoptering.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Of like, how
Yeah.
do we find that balance of like, okay, if you have so much work to do, you have so much work to do all day. We want to make sure that you eat and get rest. We also don't want it to be the opposite of like, okay, I'm going to write your teacher an email and excuse you from
Yeah.
all your assignments tomorrow. And like, and
Yeah.
like, I hate to say it, but I see that all the time. And
Oh,
often,
yes.
yes, and
Yeah.
it's tricky because those are the most well-meaning parents. Like
Yeah.
they
Right.
care so deeply,
Yeah.
and they're
Yeah.
so hyper aware of the self-care. They're very open about mental health, but sometimes it goes to the other
Too far.
direction. Yeah.
Yes.
And that can actually cause a lot of anxiety for when the teenager gets older and they have to
Right.
navigate kind of the real world. So it's like,
Yeah.
how do we find the balance
Yeah.
here? Again, it's
Right.
that dance.
The perfectionism
Yes.
syndrome, right?
Well,
Yes.
and then one of the things that you're doing when you overperform your kids, and I'm an overperformer, is saying, well, you can't really do this, so I'm going to do it for you. So that's not
Yes.
empowering for them at
No.
all.
No.
And you gotta encourage them, and that's what I
Right.
love. And we don't have time to go into this whole thing, but the gentle parenting, the conscious parenting, where they
Mhm.
let kids figure stuff out, that is
Yes.
so contrary to how I was raised and how I raised my kids, and I just love it. I love
Mhm.
watching videos of it and seeing how
Mhm.
they, even with the food, letting them try different foods.
Yes,
And
yes,
yeah,
letting them kind of learn for themselves. I mean,
let them learn.
I'm a big advocate of letting teens, kind of metaphorically scrape their knees a little bit. Also, we don't
Oh
want them to
yeah,
break their knees, but we want them to scrape
right,
their knees and see that they can be
exactly.
okay,
I love that.
that
Scrape, don't break.
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, and like
Yeah.
that's actually healthy. That builds resilience,
Yes,
for
that's
teens to figure it out on their
exactly.
own,
Yeah.
But again, there
Yeah,
are certain situations where it's okay for us to
Yeah.
step in, but finding the
right.
balance,
Yeah.
can be
Yeah,
tricky.
yeah,
Oh my goodness, we could go on for days
Yes.
because
yeah,
this is our work. We love this, and we're so grateful for you, Sophia, being
Thank
here. We could
you.
talk to you
yeah.
all day, I'm pretty sure.
Oh,
Tell us
thank
more
you.
about the book and how people can get
Yes.
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. So the book is coming out October 7th. So it's
Okay.
available on Barnes and Noble, Amazon, Penguin Random House. You can pre-order it now. You can also message me if there are any questions on my website, www.
The book name again? Oh, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
no. You're good. Calming Teenage Anxiety.
Calming Teenage
Okay.
Anxiety. And you were going to
Yes.
give your website.
Oh, so the website is www.sophiagalano.com. You could also message me on Instagram.
We'll drop a link
Yes.
here in
Okay.
our show notes so people can
Perfect.
check that out.
Perfect. Yes. And the book too, it's was written for parents with teenagers, but it's really for anyone who wants to help a teenager in their life.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I love that you
it's
said that, because it really takes a village. And,
yes.
sometimes it's the grandparents or the
Yep.
friends, the aunts, the uncles, brothers,
Yep.
sisters,
Yep.
everybody. Yeah.
Yep. And something just to, kind of close with is that, having an anxious teen in a family affects the whole family. So it's often not
Yeah.
just the teen
Yes.
or the parent, it's the siblings, the grandparents, the
Mhm.
friends, So to go off of what you said, that the book is really written, it uses the terms parents, but it's for anyone to read.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Sophia.
Thank
Thank
This
you
you
has
for
so much.
been
having
so fun.
me. Thank you
Mm,
so much. It was lovely chatting with you too. I really appreciate you having me here.
awesome.
Hey, warrior moms. As we started this podcast, we had determined that part of what we were going to do is to create a community. So we have decided to take it to another level, and we have started our own Facebook community in addition to the Warrior Parent podcast, and it's called
From Chaos to Calm, a sanctuary for moms. Here's what it looks like. It's on Facebook right now. Please go and join it. And just to let you know, we're going to create our Blue Sky accounts right now. We're getting prepared as we watch this weird stuff go on in America. So we may be shifting the whole group to Blue Sky. Just be aware that we got you. You're going to start here. If this turns out to be not a safe place anymore on Facebook, then we will shift over. But what we're creating is a safe space where moms can show up and get information, get support, talk to each other about the things you're going through with your kids, the things you went through with your kids, maybe get some advice from moms, but also other experts. We're going to invite all of our guests and experts to join the group. I hope you will too. This is a place where you can show up and be seen and be heard and be safe. Mom's got you.
Nobody Trusts anyone more than moms. So let's do this.
And now for your core mental health break. This is your opportunity to take a moment to support your mental wellness, your peace of mind, your own ease and grace. Take some time every day to support your mental health. You deserve it, and it matters. So today we will do an affirmation. So I encourage you to speak this aloud. I am worthy. I am worthy. I am worthy. Let that be your affirmation for today. Thanks for listening to the Warrior Parent Podcast, which is a production of our nonprofit, Cour Experience, who also creates and distributes Cour tools. You can find us at courexperience.org. Make sure you join us next week for another informative conversation to help you and your family show up mindfully, purposefully, and joyfully with each other and in your community.
Our Cour Tools platform consists of a number of proven tools and techniques that are designed to reduce stress, anxiety, and overwhelm in spite of what's going on in your world. We want to thank Samuel Hale, LLC, for sponsoring this podcast. Technical and marketing support comes from Inspire Your Brand. Our podcast editor is Justin Beeden. Opinions expressed by guests do not necessarily reflect those of the hosts, the producers, or the financial supporters. I'm Debbie DeMano.
And I'm Marci Mitchell. Thanks for listening. If you resonate with the idea of creating a community to help support kids and families, won't you join us by following the podcast and sharing this episode? You can even write a review. It truly does take a village, and we appreciate you.